item on our proposed agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would kindly join us, standing, excuse me, let's wait just a moment. Are you running, Cindy? Ready? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. The first item on our agenda this evening is approval of the agenda. I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Is that a motion, Mr. Jenke?
I guess. Let's move that with an oi.
Yeah, with the item. Thank you. We have a motion for Mr. Jenke. Is there support to the motion to approve the agenda? Mr. Ware. Any proposed additions or suggested deletions to the agenda as presented?
Yeah, hang on. Let's see. 5-year rec plan committee under new business, D.
I was gonna bring up the ball field, but maybe I can do it under that or something like that. We can have a little some talk about it under that maybe. I don't know.
I put it on separate, I think I was gonna get worse. We just.
Anything else?
Put it as an E.
It's gonna get
Aaron, are
worse.
you
No.
satisfied that we talk about the ball field under the rec plan? I'm also gonna be addressing the ball field under
No,
my
make it
report.
separate.
You're gonna, he's saying we should make it separate. So
Oh.
I was gonna, if you're gonna bring up the ball field, I'm fine with talking about it under your stuff.
Okay, I've got the ball field under my report.
Okay, good. There's a, yeah, okay, good.
Okay, so we've got an addition of the rec plan, acceptable to everyone?
Yep.
And all in favor of the motion to approve the agenda as amended, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, motion carries. We have an agenda for tonight. Item 5, approval of the minutes from our May 11th, 2022 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented? Mr. Wareham, is there support?
I'll support.
Ms. Gardner, we have a motion and support to approve the minutes as presented. Any recommended changes to the minutes? Additions, deletions, suggested changes? It's double-sided on your page. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the minutes as presented, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. We have minutes approved. Item 6, financial reports. In your packet, we have reports for the township, general fund, road fund, Mason wastewater fund, Tamarack City water, and Osceola Township water. Just everyone has had a chance to glance at these. Do I have a motion to accept the reports as presented?
I'll make a motion.
Motion from Ms. Gardner, is there support?
Sure.
Mr. Jenke. Motion and support to accept the reports for the general fund, road fund, Mason wastewater fund, Tamarack City water fund, and Osceola Township water fund. Is there any questions, concerns, comments on any of the reports?
Why is that miscellaneous and negative? Negative 16?
And which one?
Under the township budget.
Oh, that's a good question. I have no idea.
Would you like to-
It's a negative and then.
My guess is
And it shouldn't be over budget.
there was a
should it?
check, no, what she probably did was there was a check and that's the only miscellaneous category. But we haven't taken any money in there, so we'll just have to recategorize it
Oh.
to something else.
You want to circle that, and we'll follow up on
Yeah,
that.
I will.
I would feel on the income side it would be 0 or, I don't know how you could get to a negative.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, that's what I'm,
If you, it's like in QuickBooks, if you quickly search something and you type in miscellaneous or whatever and it comes up, it doesn't necessarily tell you if it's an income or an
Oh.
expense, so you just hit enter and you go through and,
Okay.
don't notice until you print.
So
the
maybe
reports.
a check is applied to that one when it should have been
Yeah,
applied to something on the
something
bottom
else,
down there.
yeah.
Probably the case. We'll
When it
follow up.
should have went down to like 956 or something.
Mm-hmm. What's that?
Any additional questions? Need further explanation at our upcoming meeting? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to accept the financial reports as presented, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Item 7, approval of payment of bills from the general fund, road fund, Mason fund, Tamarack City Water Fund, and Osceola Township Water Fund. Approving or okaying the bills that have already been paid. I trust everybody's had a chance to either look at the bill folder or approve the checklist.
This isn't exactly a bill question, but I'm looking at the Tamarack line, I see the services payment to Torch Lake. Are we operating under that new rate? Did anything happen there as far as the 75 cents or whatever, we bumped that up to $1.25, or what did we go to?
Yeah, it's going to $1.25.
Is that-
It is
is
going
that-
to $1.25, we're setting up a meeting, go through that process.
Mhm.
We'll be dealing with all of our rate structures at that meeting discussed at the previous meeting. That's one of them, we have a $1.25 increase there on a $37 versus $36 admin fee. And it'll all be spelled out and pointed out at.
Were you gonna bring that up today, or is that?
Actually, not tonight, because those budgets have been approved, but we've got to pick a start date,
Okay.
and ideally it'll be July 1st.
Okay.
So those new rates are not in here yet.
No.
They're not being, we're not receiving benefits from that.
We're not receiving benefit yet because we didn't pick a start date. Start date that's gonna be proposed is July 1st. And I'm also gonna talk with folks like Sewage Authority, I haven't scheduled a meeting yet to let them know what we're doing.
Alright.
For sure, it wouldn't have been on that anyway, because the
I'm
earliest it
just-
could have gone
it
would be the
just
billing. of
flicked the
the-
switch and I didn't see it here, and I just
Yeah.
wanna make sure I was asking about it.
That's a perfectly valid question, we just haven't approved the timelines yet.
Motion to pay the bills.
Mr. Jenkins, is there support?
I'll support it.
We have a motion and support to approve the bills as paid. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Alright.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Item 8, public comment, we've reached the first of 2 public comment sessions. We have the privilege of having our newly appointed county commissioner with us this evening, Mr. Kader, who was asked to address the board during public comment, and I indicated to him that with the understanding of the board that the 3-minute time limit may be waived if he so desires to speak further. So, is that acceptable to everyone? We'll ask Mr. Kader to be our first speaker, given your schedule, during public comment, and then, of course, open it up to everyone else as soon as you conclude. So, Mr. Kader, the floor is yours, please.
Thanks. The primary purpose that I've come down here is simply to introduce myself. I know some of you guys, I don't know most in this area. I've already visited very recently with Torch Lake Township and Schoolcraft Township, immediately before I was appointed. I'm familiar with all of those ladies and gentlemen, and I also met with Linden Village. And I'm scheduled to meet with Franklin, I believe next week, next Monday. So I am the appointed District 2 Commissioner, so those are the 4 townships, as I'm sure you guys know, that are part of District 2. I'm replacing it, El Osceola. Everybody knew El forever. I needed a very good long-term job for our area. The process that I got appointed, I'm sure you guys probably tracked it a little bit, that there was a little bit of indecision and then turned into a little bit of controversy, because the county board took a position that they weren't gonna fill the position. And there was a lot of pushback from just about every township and a lot of other people saying, Houghton County needed representation. So I, along with a couple of other neutral individuals, put our name in under the understanding that I wasn't going to run going forward, because the situation with the county right now is, there's 4 candidates in the Republican primary that have filed. I believe nobody, interestingly, in the Democratic side has filed. And in the general election, there's also a third-party candidate from Franklin Township, Dr. Sears. So there's, originally, we thought that we were gonna have a decision in August, but that's not gonna happen, so it's gonna be the final, November election where everybody will know who the District 2 Commissioner is going forward. But in the interim, I am your connection to the Houghton County Board. And of course, any other commissioner will hear your concerns also. I just gave Mark my phone number, and my phone number and email are listed on the county website. So if you wanna reach out to me. One caveat is, I do not have cell service at my house. So if you email me, I'll get it right away. If you call me, I'll eventually get the message, and I will definitely return your phone call, because I'm in town just about every day. I happen to be semi-retired now. I've been running Peninsula Copper for 38 years. As I think everybody locally knows, we sold the production plant to Osmos originally in 2011. But Peninsula Copper continued to exist. For another 10 years, we had a large resale operation, and we had our office out of Lake Linden. Last June, I once again sold half of my company, and I retained half the company, and I'm operating that out of my location in Rice Lake. My civic participation is, I've been on the school board. I've had 6 years, I believe, on Schoolcraft Township board as a trustee. I'm currently the chairman of KEDA. I've been on KEDA's board for ever. I had 2 different stints. I mean, we started prior to KEDA's name, it was a KIC, if you might remember that, the KEDA Industrial Council. I got on that board when there were 7 members, and now KEDA has grown into a hundreds of member organization. And KEDA is always available to townships or private businesses or anything to assist them. Just taking a little time with KEDA right now is, of course, is we're assisting Lake Linden, which, with a major grant for replacement of most of their stormwater system. So any of those utility areas, we're working with the airport right now on their utility situation, which is a problem. So that's, and then I also served on the Smart Zone board for many years, I think 8 years or so. So I have a fair background. I know a lot of people in Houghton, Hancock, and of course a lot in the local area. So I'm here for 7 months. I'm here to assist you guys if you need some kind of interaction with the Houghton County Board. Now, interestingly, I am in part of the process at a very interesting time, because the Houghton County Board has received $6.8 million of ARPA funds. And those were the American Recovery Funds that were passed in January. And I believe all the townships have received ARPA funds. So that is a one-time event where everybody gets to decide what is best. So it's new money, and it's a one-time event. So, you probably wanna do one-time projects with that in case, instead of increasing your operational costs, because this money isn't gonna come around again. Hope to God, because the reason for this money was the pandemic, right? So the event, what pertains to you, what is the county board gonna do with the ARPA funds? Well, they, prior to me getting on the board, they solicited ideas, requests from all of the county departments, and there are many. And there's a huge amount of requests, and the requests exceed the amount of money available. So we're gonna have to prioritize. To date though, and we're having a major work session believe in July, to try to come up with buckets so that we can start prioritizing. But prior to that, we've already approved a number of projects, because there were some urgency projects. So a couple of weeks ago, we authorized a major expenditure for the police department, or the sheriff's department, excuse me. And also for the county transfer station, because they had an equipment problem issue up there. And that particular department is on its way to sustaining itself, but it's not there yet. So we authorized a new truck and trailers for them. The police department was very interested. We authorized body cameras for all the deputies. So we will be up to standards of everywhere else, and that's something that the sheriff and just about everybody on the board really thought was extremely important to get that, and to get that quickly. Primarily for liability reasons on the county level. And very interesting is, there was another proposal further down that was gonna be discussed later, which was renewing all the emergency radios in the school systems. Well, our meeting was the day after Uvalde, so we moved it right up to the list. And we've approved, I don't know, I think $120,000, so every school will get a number of radios, and the county will be able to contact the schools directly. Schools will be able to contact the county directly. That's not a new system, but there are radios that exist right now, half of them are out of service, and they don't have any parts and stuff like that. So that's a very important safety issue that was acted on immediately. All these things are unanimous votes, by the way. The one that's gonna impact you guys directly is that we have passed a road share appropriation out of the ARPA funds. So what occurred there is Kevin Hardy came and visited us, and basically it's gonna be a one-third proposal. The county will match what the township used, and it's all ARPA funds. So you guys have the opportunity of taking some or all of your ARPA funds and getting a one-on-one match with the county ARPA funds. And then the county road commission is gonna also, through in-kind, throw an equal amount of money into the pot. So you're gonna actually have a very significant leverage for your activities. You'll get 2/3 county money to 1/3 township money. What is your ARPA fund, and have you guys apportioned it at all yet?
We made no decision as yet as to how to use it. The township received just over $190,000 of its allocation, so we have a significant allocation.
The townships are taking some townships are throwing it all into roads. In fact, quite a few townships, and those, probably the ones most in need. Other townships have apportioned it to various activities, including roads, and there's a couple of townships, I have no concept of why, but they actually rejected the ARPA funds. We have 2 townships in the county that did that, one of them in my district. But that's their decision. Townships, do what they want and make their own decisions. So the process you're gonna have until February to decide. Okay, Kevin said that actually you can only handle about 3 townships this year because of all his other scheduled work, and those 3 townships have already, it's probably gonna be the 3 townships that are furthest along, which is, Portage has a significant amount of money going into roads. Calumet Township has a significant amount, and then Laird has much smaller, but, significant for them amount. So, now I'm not saying that you wouldn't be able to get anything done this year. You'll have to talk to Kevin. It really depends on what kind of project you're talking about. If you're only talking about a paving project with very little prep, that may, I think you probably would fit that in. If you're talking about total road reshaping, we could go out to or Kevin, because this isn't part of us at all, could go out to a private contractor, but they're much more expensive. So your money isn't gonna go as far. And quite frankly, they're not available this year either. Trying to find contractors this year is gonna be extremely difficult. There's a lot going on in the county, as I'm sure you guys know. The other aspect of now versus later is, and Kevin underlined this at the board meeting, is, you know, the costs are extremely high right now because of fuel costs, because of petroleum costs. And the county's cost for pavement is 35% higher than last year. And I asked, it's about 35% more than 2019, our last regular year. I happen to be a commodities guy, because it's copper, and know a lot about the petroleum industry, and it's not gonna come down soon, but it is gonna come down. It always does, because commodities go in cycles and they go boom and bust. You have flexibility with, on what we pass, because I said you have to decide by February of, next year. So you have to sign on the dotted line, I will put this amount in here, and we can also, correct? But you don't have to have it constructed until, I think, 2026. And that extension was related to, there's so much business, when you wanna get it in, how big is your project? So that, you could certainly get something done next year though, if you so chose. And the only question is, then you have to, ballpark 35%, instead of paving 1 mile of road, you could get, 1.35, 1.4 miles of road, which is extremely, for small areas like that, it's a very important consideration to think about. But that's a township, township decides, Kevin will give you the data, and it's a done deal. And that's, pretty much it. I'm here, as I said, we have meetings once a month, and then we have special meetings, and I just, spent a lot of time on the airport, and we have a problem with the airport.
Weren't you guys in a special meeting not too long ago?
That was last Friday,
Yeah.
and that was, part of it was.
The service problem?
The service problem, our current airline, is representing that they don't have pilots, and that is true. Because every airline is parking, airplanes right now because of lack of pilots. Couple reasons for that. The most immediate reason is, for instance, United retired 6,000 pilots during the pandemic, with early outs, and it's starting to bite them a little bit, right? But the rules for commuter airlines changed significantly a number of years ago. There was that very bad crash in Buffalo, Kobe Air. That resulted in the qualification for a second officer to go from 750 hours to 1,500 hours. And put a big bind on pilots. And the other item, which is very important, is Air Force pilots are tending to stay in the Air Force much longer than they did in the past. And that was the primary training session for pilots. Long story short, this is a long-term problem, probably 5 years. So the airline wants to reduce service to us. We resisted that because we have a contract. The airline wanted to go to 1 flight per day. We did not accept.
So they weren't gonna pull the pin completely.
No, but it's a possibility.
It sounded from what I was listening to, that they were trying to get out of it completely.
No, they had a.
They wanted to be released from the contract or something like that.
Well, going to 1 would release him from the contract.
Oh, okay.
There was a counter proposal that the airport manager wanted to make, which I supported, but did not go my way, so I went with the flow this time to show a solid commitment. So we're saying no, with the hope and the expectation that this is gonna be rebid, so that we're at EAS facility, which is federal government support. That's bids every 2 years, and it's gonna be rebid in September. The current contract goes till the end of January, so we're hopeful that we're gonna get some interested airlines in September, and we're hopeful that SkyWest, United, actually, SkyWest works for United, Delta, and American. And SkyWest is the biggest of the commuter airlines, it's not a small, company at all. We're trying to convince them to go back to Delta, and we've been trying to do that for 6 years without any success. But we think that we'll have a better, a more reliable operation if we go to Delta. Irrespective, county has very little pull in this, we're negotiating, but we don't have a lot to negotiate with, so stay tuned. I mean, it's extremely important to have this county have air service, and good air service. So that's about all on the agenda that I have. Do you have any questions of me or what's going on at the county level?
Anybody with a question?
Do you know if the 1/3 of the money, that we come up with, is it required that it be ARPA funds? Because we do
Yes.
have okay.
That's an interesting concept, but for some reason, I don't quite understand the reasoning there, but that's what it is right now.
Okay.
I don't either, and I know that other townships have probably resisted this a little bit, the ARPA requirement. I mean, how are you gonna know? You're not gonna know. We could bill it from any pot, you wouldn't really know.
I have no idea how that's working.
Yeah, you
It
guys
will all
don't-
come
you
out in the reporting though.
No, they don't get to see that.
No, but the federal government will.
Yeah, but they don't. This ain't federal government. They're the ones that are making this rule.
Yeah, this is,
They don't get to see,
first of
they don't
all,
get to see
Oh.
any of that.
that's a resolution, so actually Kevin Haryu and the road commission is gonna be the arbiter, I believe, of that.
I mean, some townships may not have a funding source to appropriate money to match that 1/3.
Well,
Ours does.
every township received ARPA funds.
Agreed, but that's not what I'm saying.
2 of them did not accept it.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is there's, some townships don't have a road millage fund, for instance.
Correct?
Some do, ours does.
The vast majority has road
Yeah.
millage.
But what I'm saying is if we pulled 1/3 from a road millage fund and gave it to you, there'd be no way for you to know, quite frankly.
I mean,
If you were to ask me to push back on something, that would be the thing that I would push back on, is requiring it to be ARPA, because it
let me
makes no,
confirm,
it
you know,
makes no difference where that 1/3 money comes from.
I'm gonna get that question next week, so I am going to confirm what I just told you. And if I'm incorrect, I will let you know.
Please do.
But as I remember the discussion, it was ARPA funds.
And I'll tell you why I have a problem with that, and these guys know it, and they may overrule me in the end here, but the reason that I look at the ARPA money is for stuff that, like you said, is a one-time thing that we won't be able to do again. Roads is always gonna be doing again. Roads never go away, we have a funding source for roads, it never goes away. We have things in our township that may never have the opportunity to use this money on again. And, that's the difference I see here. I appreciate the offer from the county, but we're always gonna be doing roads, never not gonna be doing roads.
Yep.
And, so,
Assuming that what I just communicated is correct, that it has to be ARPA funds,
yeah,
we will take that money and reapportion it.
yeah.
Any township that declines the match, that's fine, and we'll take that money, and, I don't think we'll give it to any township for more roads. I think it'll go, because there's a huge demand for all this money, we're gonna run out, and, we're gonna run out.
I'm not saying that I won't cave eventually, I'm not saying that, but we've got our ARPA funds already split between 3 precincts here.
Mhm.
So he gave you a number that's already cut way down.
Yeah.
So, I think, for instance, we're in precinct, 2 right now, we're sitting in it? Is
One.
2, we're
One.
precinct 1 right now, what is that, what's the funds for this precinct? Or the breakup?
53,000.
53,000.
Mhm.
And if we're talking, like, for instance, if we're talking a road project where you have to do some utility work and some other things too, not just, if we're gonna for instance, in Dollar Bay, we were talking about E Street earlier, you know, that's great, we'll get some help with the ARPA part of it, but we're also we would also need to utilize and do gooseneck stuff, you know, for our leads, so that we put this road down and we wouldn't have to come back and dig it all back up again within the next, we're given a time frame for those things as well. So there's things out there, if you were to ask anything if I was to give you anything from me, this one thing has been a topic of discussion here. I work at UP Engineers and Architects too, and it's been a topic of discussion for us as well. And, the one thing that I ask for you to push back on is that it has to be ARPA. Because really, you can't really enforce, it's hard for you to even enforce it. And it doesn't really serve any purpose. You know, you guys are the ones that are giving money. How we match it shouldn't matter.
If I may,
I'll follow up on that.
please, if you would please, because if I may interject, to go to Aaron's point, in previous conversations with people, road commission and elsewhere, the idea of matching funds was the issue for the ARPA. The source of the matching funds was less an issue in the conversations with the road commission some time ago, when this was first being formulated. So if there is indeed flexibility, as Aaron is suggesting, would be advantageous to us,
I will follow up with that tomorrow, and I
Appreciate
will
it.
report back to you guys,
thank you.
because I don't wanna get incorrect information out there before.
I'm not-
I wanna stop a controversy before.
No, and
And I'm not the only township, we're not the only township that thinks this way, just, you
Oh,
know.
I can imagine, I'm
So
gonna get.
I know, I have several people I know in other townships, I know that we're not the only ones that are like,
Kevin had a report, however, that just about every township has committed to taking ARPA out. So it's not a huge issue unless he's not telling us something. Yeah, he gave us a spreadsheet, and he had the amount of, ARPA funds that were given to each township, and he had the amount of that fund category that was to be contributed to roads. So every township, except for the two that I mentioned, tentatively has said, I will participate in this.
and I'm not saying we won't either, that's not what I'm saying.
Well, I'm sure, and again, you guys have until, well, I mean, you probably wanna decide by the end of this year so that you can get everything in a row for February.
if I may, since you have offered to look into this about matching funds, that information is gonna be very beneficial.
Yep.
Because until we know with absolute certainty about what we may bring forward to match the county's contribution in ARPA funds. And I'll just add as a footnote, in the early conversations, the formulation of the idea of taking this from the road commission to the county board, that I had an opportunity to sit in on one of their planning meetings, I believe back in February. They were identifying the ARPA funds in that, and they charted it out for every township after the money was distributed, because it seemed like a logical way to get new money into the system. But as Aaron is suggesting, we have a millage, if we are given the latitude, or it's not even a requirement that it be ARPA, it does change very dramatically our perspective as to how to proceed.
Now, I could,
To tell you the truth, in my view, it doesn't matter at all, because you guys got a pile of money, and you gotta decide how to spend it, right?
well, we have certain money that's earmarked just for roads.
Yeah.
Right.
That can't be used for other things, but the ARPA money can be used for other things, so you're
There's a
taking some.
wide range.
So we have this pot of money, all this money, but only some of it can be used for roads, and quite frankly, like if you were to look in this community, for instance, we probably have more money in our millage fund than we do in the ARPA fund. So I could see where you could go to them and say, we have to cap your match at what your ARPA would be, so we can't just take like, oh, hey, you know, here's $2 million, can you match, you know, one third, no, I get that part, so you would have to, you could cap at, say, okay, we know that Osceola Township only had $190,000 in ARPA money, you know, that's, you know, even if they use it all, that would be their cap, you know, so that they couldn't get, in that township, they couldn't do any more, I mean, otherwise, heck, we'd be I could see that rule, you know, I could see that rule, but forcing us to take it from a specific pot of money could hamstring us a little, because it is broken up we can't use it like, you know, we've been talking about, the road up the hill here, for instance, you know, I mean, there's not enough money there that even with the 1/3, that would get us there, you know, so,
Understood, and I will
If I
report
may,
back.
please feel free to call me on my cell, or leave me a message, and I'll get back to you at the office. I think this has been an extremely important conversation. Are there, if I may, are there other questions, because I know that, Mr. Kader's on a rather tight schedule, and was hopeful of leaving sometime around 7:30.
yeah, and we got a pretty nice long
Yeah.
agenda here too, so.
It looks like you guys did.
Yeah, we got plenty of
Yeah.
things to go over here.
But I really appreciate you coming tonight and
Absolutely.
joining us. This has been a very informative conversation, and you've given us a lot to think about. And if indeed the latitude does exist, we'll be having very specific discussions very quickly about what we might be able to do with monies other than ARPA, if the latitude exists.
Very good.
Within
I
the
really,
timelines.
I really appreciate the county board interaction.
Yeah, no,
It's amazingly appreciated.
thank you
Take
for
care.
participating on our behalf and getting the resources set aside at the county level for our consideration, so.
I appreciate you taking the time to represent us as
Yeah.
well.
Thank
You know,
Thanks,
even
Kevin.
without going for a reelection,
Yeah.
just taking the time to do this.
It's probably interesting,
I bet,
and a little bit enlightening.
yeah.
Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much for everything. Thanks for the time tonight.
You knew I was gonna get that piece in, right?
Well, my comment goes back to the earliest conversation on this during the February meeting up at the Road Commission. They were honing in on ARPA, and because it was new, and the county was getting that 6.7, 6.8 million, that they thought it was the logical way to proceed, and that made sense. But I was drawing from that conversation the very point you were making, that there
Yeah.
could be some latitude.
And I had heard differently actually now recently, that I think that's where you're going right now, is that they weren't tying it straight to ARPA anymore. That's kinda where I was going, and I thought I heard that from Chris Holmes at work, who goes to Chassel on this.
The point was, I think, right on target relative to capping it.
Yeah.
They cap it at what the townships obtain.
Yep.
I feel the cap is the important part there. You know, I mean, obviously, that they only have so much they can match.
Let me, if I may, bring us back to the agenda. We were in public comment, and I'd like to ask if anybody else would like to offer comment. That did run a little bit long. Thank you for your understanding and patience. Would anybody like to address the board with an issue at this time? You would have up to 3 minutes, or if you feel the need for an extra 30 seconds, so we probably could extend. Anybody interested in offering comment for the board's consideration at this time? Hearing none, we'll close the first public comment section. Moving into reports. Please note the time on that, if you would, please,
Yep.
Krista. Assessor's report, my understanding that there is not one
No.
available
Okay.
this time, but there will be some additional comment on the assessor's contract and discussions that have taken place relative to that in a short period of time. Maintenance, you have an update from,
Did James talk to you at all?
did not, I've got a couple of calls out to him, he has not back in touch with me. On the other hand, I do know that he was, according to Scott, at the beach over the weekend, and according to Scott, did an excellent job taking care of what was a lot of debris and whatever that washed up on the shoreline.
So, he, his employment has changed somewhat down there in Marquette, so we'll have to see how that goes here. So there's some flux going on right now, and unfortunately it may hurt some of our plans a little bit.
If I may impose upon you, when next you see or speak with him, if you could get in touch with me,
Yeah.
if he calls me on
He's
it.
working like 6/10s right now.
Yeah, that's what we were guessing, that something has happened here.
Something has happened, so.
Scott said the beach was really nice, cause there was debris all over it when he checked it, I believe, on Thursday afternoon or Friday morning, and, Jaden's presence was evident, cause he said, been a lot of work done down there. I
So,
talked to him on Monday.
You know, we'll have to see where that goes. It may put some of our stuff on hold for a little while here that we planned, or we may have to we may have to look at something else.
Others doing it?
Yep, yep.
Well, it was intended to be of assistance when the schedule was tight, and we knew we had a work schedule in Marquette.
Yeah.
We'll figure out a workaround if that's appropriate.
Yeah.
You have Scott's report. Osceola Township Water Board action items, Ms. Gardner?
Yes, we have, the recommended to authorize 2 handhelds at $16,000, with us exploring where to pay it from, but the authorization to purchase the 2 handhelds.
Move.
Moved by Mr. Jenke to accept the recommendation of the Water Board / Utility Board relative to the handhelds. Is there support for the motion?
Support.
Or from Mr. Warehams? We have a motion and support coming up from the Water Board to authorize the purchase of 2 handhelds, $8,000 apiece, or a total of $16,000 for the water system. Is that an accurate stating of the motion?
About right.
Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Ms. Gardner, a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Jenke?
Yes.
Mr. Wareham?
Yes.
Mr. Hulkla?
Yes.
I vote yes, and, 1 absent.
Any other recommendations up from the Water Board?
No.
Ms. Gardner? Moving along, Dollar Bay Fire Department, written report. Tamarack City Fire Department, written report. Mr. Klein, anything else you'd like to add?
How much time do I got?
Much as you want.
Apparently 45 minutes.
No, I'm not gonna bore everybody. I got nothing to add.
Thank you,
You
Steve.
skipped all the way first responders too, by the way.
I just,
Yep.
yeah, saw that backing up. Dollar Bay First Responders is,
Written.
there's a written report in there. I do that all the time. I go right through the fire departments and skip the first responders. I apologize to them. Boy. Tamarack City Utility Board, report in your packet. Fort Lake Sewage Authority update in your packet. I anticipated one of our members being here tonight. Unfortunately, neither is available. Supervisors report. 11 o'clock, and I will move expeditiously through this. With only a couple of items that will take 60 seconds. Stop me at any time. Status of the M203 light. I learned this afternoon that the lights are being installed on M203 at both the Calumet Waterworks Road and the Tamarack City and Tamarack Waterworks Road. So our partnership with Calumet Township should have a light up already today. A vet banner update. We've got vet banners up, thanks in large part to the fire department, Mr. Klein in particular, along with Mr. Westfall, that put banners up in Tamarack City. There are Tamarack City banners on back order as of this moment, and there are Dollar Bay banners on back order. We're identifying poles in Dollar Bay, balance this week and into next week. We are also, at the suggestion of Mr. Klein, going to try to add poles immediately in Tamarack City, given the very large apparent response to the banners. Cost is $95, and I'm being asked weekly about banners, how to go about getting them. In fact, had someone stop me at the Dollar Bay post office today and ask how they got a banner for a parent, so.
We have applications in the office now.
We do now?
We do.
Okay, wonderful, thank you, Krista, appreciate that. We asked for some, I'm delighted to hear that some have arrived. Baseball field update, 2 fronts. First of all, the master schedule goes through continual modification. There's a game being played on it that's part of the schedule tonight, and we just scheduled a makeup game for the field tomorrow night at 6 for one of the teams that includes participants from our township. Secondly, the school district has used the field quite often over the last couple of weeks for various school-related events, including today. We have had some teams withdraw oral requests for use of the field, but we're pretty booked, I would say, with practices and games, with some makeups probably filling vacant dates between now and the end of the 13 to 16-year-old schedule. The Lake Linden team used it for one additional practice last week after winning their opening district round game, but they were beaten, I believe, on Friday and did not advance in the district. But every time I had a chance to see Sutherland, I did, and I thanked him for all he did to field. With regards to field upgrades, there's a lot of work being done on it right now, around the infield and into the outfield. Scott mowed the outfield again. The footnote, the dog walkers, have been using the field, but have been cleaning up after themselves, quite successfully. I have one report of, dog poo on the field, and that's dated. What we are finding, however, is baseball equipment. Scott has filled a bucket up with baseballs. We have bats, gloves, hoodies, and assorted other baseball paraphernalia. We had, lost and found, signs are gonna go up at the ballpark on the dugout to ask people to contact us if they.
Yeah, I wouldn't leave it there, I think if he's bringing it back, I don't know, that's not a good
He
place
has
to
them
leave
in
it.
the ice.
They're in
rink
the,
right
there,
now.
nothing is
Okay,
kept at the field.
wonderful,
He's got them
okay.
at the ice rink in his utility shed there, so he's collecting them. He said he picked up 3 balls again today after, a practice, recently. Andy Moyle has done a lot of work, after a very interesting discussion that prompted people to volunteer service. He has brought, I think, now a 3rd load of clay and continues to spread. I talked to him very briefly before coming here this evening. He was lining the field for a game that his team plays on. There are at least 3 layers of clay down on the infield, and it's really starting to take shape. We talked briefly about holding a meeting postseason or before winter sets in with all of the interested parties about upgrades and ideas for enhancements and improvements, to include things that would come out of the maintenance department, ideas. Aaron, would you like to expand on some of the ideas?
Well, that's
that you-
just where I was going, cause I texted him and to show my appreciation to him for stepping up to the plate after having a lively discussion with him, in the rain.
Week and a half or so ago.
A week and a half ago, and he turned that into a significantly positive event, for sure. And all credit needs to go to Andy Moyle and the resources that he's bringing probably from his, from the Moyle Corporation, so, it needs to be said that him and his employer have, his company has really stepped up to the plate to ensure that the use of that field can continue, maybe better. And so with that being said, though, he said, with some of the things that we were talking about, is that one of the things that he agrees that should be done is we should grass the infield, cause that helps from every point of maintenance, and, it's way easier to mow that than do other things. Anyways, there could be some costs coming from that portion, from that, and he just wanted to make sure that we're aware that if we wanna do that we have, make sure we have something set aside to help with that. And I think if he's gonna put the work in, we should try to support it, I guess.
It's budgeted, we
Yeah,
have money.
yeah, I think there's money there that could help with something like that, so, it really shouldn't be a big issue for us, cause we already know that we were doing that.
As a matter of fact.
Yeah, and a footnote, if I may, conversations with Mr. Janke and conversations with Mr. Moyle, with Scott Reed et al. We're talking about putting down concrete pads for the porta-john that's there. We're talking about putting down a concrete pad and putting up a utility shed, probably behind the visitors' dugout. It'll fit nicely in there, it looks like, if the dimensions are less than what would require, I believe, formal permitting process for construction. There's interest in having that built, so conversations are going on about field enhancement on several levels right now, and they're coming back to the township with ideas, either through members of the board or contacting me. But there's a lot of interest, a lot of support, and a lot of willingness to pitch in and volunteer time and or materials to upgrade the field. And the demand for the field, I think, will only continue to grow. We had some teams back up, but there was one time where we could have had as many as 7 different teams utilizing the field. And now we're down with Lake Linden, I think we have 3 teams playing and or practicing on the field between now and the end of the season. But it's remarkable because everybody's stepping up, everybody's cleaning up. Scott talks about full garbage bags, but nothing messy left on the field as a general rule, so.
And it did get a lot of use from the school.
It did.
And it's still being used as a dog park.
And they are doing
Right?
well by that, but.
3125 is in the budget for the ball field right now.
3125?
Yeah. I
We
mean,
may
we always
need,
can move
we
money, but.
we may need to look at that, but yeah, I mean, we got something there anyways.
We've got an amendment, to
Yeah.
me every time, so.
Okay.
Moving off the ball field, if I may, a group is forming to take a look at the dredge and everything from its current status to possible restoration. Friends of the Dredge, it's being called. Dr. Arnold out of the historic park is part of that. In fact, before I came to the meeting, I got a message from him to call him tomorrow if I'm available to meet in mid-July, and I'll make sure I'm available when the group starts to gather to look at the dredge. I am still searching through files at the office. I asked my predecessor where he kept information. I went to all the sources he told me and found nothing. So I'm still looking for a file or files on the dredge.
It's unfortunate because there was a lot of research that already went into this.
I'll find it. It's just a matter of which box it's in. So
Okay.
it's gotta be in there
It's the
somewhere.
third time somebody's approached that.
Good.
I'll keep you posted on that. Semco update, had a very constructive meeting with Gabe Seeland last Thursday after my meeting with our attorney. Krista prepared maps identifying where township property was. I've had conversations with each of you individually about possible locations around the baseball field. I highlighted a map that Mr. Jenke prepared for me relative to where the, utility shed should go, but we also talked about the potential for this station of theirs being near the ball field, away from Main Street, away from the sidewalk. The footprint is a little bit smaller than I think we originally envisioned. It will stand no more than 4.5 to 5 feet high. It'll be surrounded by a privacy fence if it goes into that area. And the platform, the desired property is 10 by 20, but the piping itself would be much less than that inside the fence. But the material he hoped to get to me before tonight's meeting had not arrived yet. So I'm just basing this on the conversation where updates and ideas were shared with him, maps were shared, identification of spots was shared, and he's supposed to take a look at them and then get back to me.
Is there any verification that we own a strip of property over there still, over there by Grubbs
The right away,
barn,
that's-
or do we know anything over there?
Tentatively, Laura said that she can't locate anything that states it's abandoned. So as far as she could tell, we've got a pretty heavy workload of stuff we're working on, but that's on our list. of
I'm just
things.
curious if anything was found, but yeah,
I know.
that helps, I mean, that's all.
We're gonna work on it, but it's just.
Yeah, it's fine, yeah. We can put some of that work on them too. If they wanna use it, they can go get title research to do some research on that.
Yeah, that might
A
be
title-
helpful.
yeah.
You know, have a say, can you, how much does it cost to have a title company do a search for this, you know?
Mhm.
See, make sure there's nothing in there that somebody else has picked this property up as part of their title,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
Good point. Footnote to the conversation, if I may, is we did talk about a specific time period. Should we come to an agreement to go forward and properties made available, it would be time specific. And the, very limited offer was just a placeholder, my term, not his, but that was the gist of the conversation. He knows that there's issues around both fair market value and.
Yes,
value. So
yes.
we're, should we come to an understanding, it will not be for $1. So, township rec plan, there's considerable progress on this front. I've got a growing list of items that will go into the rec plan. I won't, list them at this moment in time. Suffice it to say that it is one entire column on my spreadsheet right now, all the things we'd like to put into a rec plan. That now includes one item I would have never thought about, and that's a pickleball court. But Whooper has gotten in touch with us, identified staff that we're gonna be working with, and there'll probably be a meeting in the next few weeks, ideally before our July meeting.
We put that on the agenda, so.
There is a board of review position, open now, as we know, because of Mr. Ringler's resignation. We have received correspondence from our alternates. Mr. Bencato is interested in the position, Mr. Weinberg is not.
Which one is the trained one?
Louis Bencato.
Oh, he's the one that
Yeah,
has
he's
all the
in,
training,
so,
right? Yeah.
we don't need to make a decision right now, but I'm alerting you that we'll need to make a decision at our July meeting. If not, the meeting that we'll hold later this month to go over.
Can
those
we
previous-
appoint him to the full-time position and then
If he's
seek
interested, I don't
an
see why we-
alternate?
I
Yeah, I don't
think
know.
we can, may I suggest we look into that, make sure we're doing it correctly, we'll have another meeting this month to go go
Just
over everything
didn't
from
qualify,
amendments
just
to
put it.
interview candidates.
Why are we waiting?
I don't know, I mean, if he's already an
Well, I wanna make
alternate,
sure that we don't have to post the position.
as an alternate, I would assume that we do not have to.
Well, that's probably true, but Chris and I talked about putting a notice up to
All right,
post the
all right.
position, so. Give us a week, we'll post the position, and when we meet in a week to 10 days, we can appoint that if that's acceptable.
Hmm.
And we're not providing a lack of opportunity for others to apply. We didn't post it, we simply inquired as to whether the alternates were interested.
Sure.
And if he does accept ultimately, then we have to post another position for an alternate.
Didn't we take two alternates just because? Do we have to have two alternates?
We do not have to have two, but two's advantageous, in my opinion.
I thought we
Because-
took the second one just because.
I don't know, we need to.
Yeah, we've had occasions where we've had the
Use
chairman
them.
of the board of review and the two alternates, because the other members were not available.
Okay, alright.
Assessor contract. We reworked the original agreement, sent it out to Mr. Greeley for review, and I learned during the course of the meeting that he thought our enhancements were on target. There was input from Krista, input from the board generally, and input from Laura. Unfortunately, it appears that more and more we're being asked to or advised to hire our assessor as a member of the township staff. And that issue has not been raised with Laura yet in a formal way, but during a recent discussion with her, she did seem receptive and amenable to that. So we need to flush that out a little bit further, and again, at this upcoming meeting on candidates, we're probably gonna be talking about how we proceed with our assessor. Footnote to that, you may have noticed in the Mining Gazette that the city of Hancock has posted an advertisement looking for an assessing official. So, there are a number of municipalities and townships that engage the same firm that we do. We're looking at all of this to make sure that we get sound advice, which we're getting.
Does Hancock use her too, or what?
I think
And
they
so
did.
now they're posting it.
They posted the position, which raises a question as to her status with them, so.
Okay.
I don't know any more than what I read in the paper, and I brought the ad to his
Oh, boy.
attention. We've had a number of responses to the clerk's position. Krista's doing a search to make sure that they are township residents. I'm asking at this moment, what date in the next 5 to 7 working days would be convenient for the board to hold interviews and address some of the other issues referenced this evening? We could probably get the word out, ideally, we would do it next week, the week of the 13th. In a pinch, we could do it the week of the 20th, although that week has a rather interesting anomaly to it. There is a new federal holiday that will be celebrated on June 20th. And our policies indicate that we take federal holidays off. We'll give some background, this is a brand new thing. Banks are closed on the 20th. Is there a day next week that would be convenient for the board to hold interviews? Is there a day convenient the week of the 20th?
I mean, for me, Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays are pretty tough. I even have a hard time with this one sometimes, so. To throw another Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday on me, I have a fire department meeting next Wednesday. Tuesday is definitely out.
How about
Friday,
Thursday,
if you
Friday
know
of next week?
that would work for me.
Monday, we have election training, so I can't do Monday.
Thursday or,
Can you do Friday?
Thursday or Friday next week, or Thursday or Friday the following week? the
Can't do
20th?
Thursday.
okay, Friday might be the best.
Thursday would have to be after 7.
We're looking at the week of the 20th right now.
Either that or early, and I just have to come earlier.
Is there any day of the week of the 20th that'll work for people?
Same constraints will be,
Yeah, that's,
I'll be in Marquette Monday.
that takes Monday off.
If I could do the all
We might
22nd
have Monday.
Wednesday, that ain't gonna work.
Tuesday the 23rd. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
it's
we
Friday.
can't,
It's Summer.
we can't put
There
this
is-
off.
There
We
is
can't.
not days in the summer to do extra stuff
We
like
can't
this.
put this off though.
Yeah,
I mean, we have to.
We have to do our interviews and.
We have an election coming and we have nobody to run it,
I
so.
don't think this person's gonna be ready to run it anyways.
We do it on the 17th, I mean, we eliminated it, no.
Depends on who we get, I guess.
Next Friday.
We have something
Well,
that's
going through the
qualified.
applications, I'm gonna finish my review tomorrow, I'll probably be talking to Krista right away, but we do need to get something scheduled within a week to 10 days.
Can you do like a lunch meeting
Yeah,
one day?
that's what I'm saying, unless you do
Oh.
something during the daytime.
I mean, I'm more flexible that way.
Why don't we
Are you
look at
flexible
a
that way, Don?
weekday,
If I have to take some, like an hour off at work or something,
could
that's
you
way
do
easier to do.
a lunch meeting on
Could do
Wednesday of
lunch.
next week?
Yes,
Wednesday?
I can, if
Don?
it's before,
No,
You start at noon and conclude at 2?
not home, I'm not home that day, I'm gone.
Okay,
I can do the week of the 20th, I can do the lunch
how
one day
about,
Wednesday or
how about the
Friday.
22nd? It's a Wednesday,
What, yeah,
At noon?
22nd would work.
22nd at noon.
Yeah, I think I can do that.
Aaron?
okay, I'll try to put it in.
All right, we'll get back to the candidates, and we'll schedule, a board meeting from noon to 2 for interviews and to address issues referenced this evening. I'm expecting to interview, eligible candidates that meet the qualifications, probably 2, maybe 3 at the most.
Yeah.
Okay. Because we do know there's some that do not live in the township.
I mean, I
That's a
would confirm
prerequisite.
some of them.
Thank you, we'll try for the 6:22 at noon. Salaries for elected officials, and, Chris, I believe you prepared a chart.
Oh, yeah.
Broke everything out. This is just updating and codifying stuff. And I think under the circumstances and given the time and the fact that we're gonna meet on the 22nd, let me just offer a comment if I may. This is consolidating everything we've already approved and or need to approve. And without Tracy here tonight to sign off on any resolutions, which we suspected, we could set aside setting all of the salaries on, until the meeting on the 22nd, and give you a chance to look over this and ask any questions. But one thing I'd like to point out at this time is that after consulting with MTA and looking at material that they provided, nothing prevents us, and this would be something that I would recommend that we do, so please consider it a recommendation at this time as you contemplate this, is that the non-elected officials, whether hourly or salary or part of a committee or board, we can indeed use the budgets already approved and endorsed and make the payment retroactive back to the start of the fiscal year. We cannot do that with elected officials. It would be forward-looking. So if, by way of example, we approve the salary resolutions at our June 22nd meeting with immediate effect, we would pay in July the elected officials the new rate.
Some of
Not all of it.
it.
And-
I gotta look through it again.
Nothing would be
Otherwise,
paid out until August.
Yeah.
One other thing of note in there, given the additional costs and burdens placed on the clerk's position as a result of the election law changes, all of the other salary positions and or hourly rates fall in that 7 to 8% rate of an increase that we've talked about repeatedly at previous meetings. The only anomaly in all of this is the clerk's position that has a 10% increase. We can't have differential pay and all that kind of stuff. None of this is cast in stone, these are just things that we've done for planning
Oh, I hear that.
purposes and or have endorsed in other budgets, but we'll codify everything on the 22nd, if that's acceptable to the board. Remembering that we can go retroactive back for boards, committees, and hourly employees, it's already in the budget. Elected officials, portion of it, we have to be forward-looking and have an effective date post-approval. And then, so, questions, comments, concerns?
I guess on that clerk one, the only thing I would have to say is I need to see what our candidates are and what their,
Oh, yeah, yeah. We're not locked into
I mean,
any of
this,
this with
this,
somebody.
this proposal was, as far as I'm concerned, was for Tracy.
Right.
that may not be worded.
Oh, yeah, exactly, we can amend this on the 22nd, we don't have to offer what's
How
available.
big of an increase for a brand new person.
But you're right, this was all developed with the current clerk in mind.
Correct, and especially that particular raise was an attempt to
Address some of the costs.
order it to
Yeah.
stay. Which did not work.
She is with us, however, through the end of the month.
It is what it is, but I'm just
Anyway,
saying,
call with questions or concerns, but we'll codify this on the 22nd.
And we'll do the salary, I mean, the resolutions.
Yeah, at that
Okay.
time, yeah.
Alright.
Road Commission dust control, the agreement's in place. They're supposed to start next week, I haven't gotten a call yet to do a tour, but it's coming out of the Calumet, garage, and they're pretty familiar with the roads, they were on the tour last year. The only addition under dusting is on Old County Road, you'll notice on the contract called for, I think, 4 additional drops. The extended drops are all being paid for by the residents. We're doing 100 feet, 24 feet wide. And the interesting thing is our costs are actually better than they were last year because the amount of calcium chloride used per square yard has dropped by 1/3. So we're not paying quite as much as we paid last year to have this stuff covered, in spite of cost increases generally, so. We're not using quite as much calcium chloride as we did last year either. Lastly, on a footnote, Scott early in the week retrieved a camera that was left inadvertently at the Tamarack City Park, a very expensive camera and case. Brought it here, and Krista and Scott came up with signs that were posted, and within 5 minutes of the signs going up, the owner of the camera, who was touring the Upper Peninsula at the time, got a picture of the sign saying to contact the township office, lost and found, and this morning stopped in to retrieve his camera. Came back up from the Iron Mountain area to pick it up and was very grateful, and said, I didn't see these signs about lost and found when we were in the park. And it was explained to him that the signs went up after the camera had been found, to alert people in the park that if something's lost and left there, there's a chance it's at the township office, so it all worked out. There's 2 other items, one other item I wanna mention quickly, it'll take just 30 seconds. I'm working on both the non-motorized and motorized trails, trying to schedule a meeting between DNR representatives and Mr. Burkhardt. We're shooting for next week. I got a call into Tony, I talked to Matt, he's available. That would deal with the property, up behind my house that's in play and currently owned by Mr. Burkhardt that's on the trail.
not to make your 30 seconds last too much longer, but one of the things I did hear was all this, the DNR has got this money that we were talking about, they're one of the ones that has this extra money. Is there any word at all that you're hearing, that they're looking at spending it on this
Well, there's
Dollar Beta Lake Linden corridor here?
there is a commitment, yeah, there's a lot of money available, they gotta straighten out the
Okay.
the property issues. So I hopefully will have more by the 22nd,
Okay,
certainly by the 13th. So snowmobile, non-motorized, will know more after the whole county rec authority meeting on Monday.
okay.
Krista, you had 2 items, one is the start date for the audit, and the other was the apartments?
Oh, yeah, we have, there's a list of people, so I'm getting into contact with them to have them come and check it out, but I don't think, we're not gonna have any problem renting it. We have a list of like 7 or 8 people who are interested.
And the rate is already moved up now for that one?
No, I think that's part of the.
That's part of what we'll do on the 22nd. We've got,
We need to get that taken care of.
2 charts.
Put somebody in there, it needs to be up before they get in there.
Well, everybody I spoke to, I did let them know that the rent will go up pretty much right after they get in there, so everybody that I talked to was aware.
Yeah.
What was the other thing?
Start of the audit.
Oh, yeah, that, she'll be, well, she hasn't gotten a
You
hold
already
of me
brought
yet,
this up
but-
already?
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, you said that we remembered it.
That's the end of my report. Thank you for your patience. Unfinished business, Semco request, that's,
Done?
we're done.
You-
That was on my
just did that.
report. We have a draw request from UP
Abstain.
Engineering.
Oh my,
I'm sorry?
he abstained.
Oh. Believe you have it in front of you, do you not?
Yep.
Could you state the amount for
Sorry.
the board?
Um,
This may be the last one.
if you guys can believe it, it's the final, totaling $1,068.94. Draw request 21.
We'll need a formal motion to approve the resolution on behalf of UP Engineering for the draw request.
I'll make the motion.
From Ms. Gardner, is there support?
I'll support it.
A motion and support to approve the draw request from UP Engineering, final one relative to the Mason Street project. Questions, comments, concerns on the motion? Hearing none, roll call vote please, Ms. Gardner?
Mr. Jenke.
Abstain.
Mr. Wareham.
Yes.
Mr. Hopla.
Yes.
I vote yes, and we have one absent.
An absent. Motion passes 3-0-1. Travis Engineering had intended to be here this evening. FEMA project update, they are not, and I didn't receive an email as of 3 o'clock this afternoon, so I will follow up tomorrow morning with John Paul.
Still worried
We
about
have-
that parking situation too.
Yeah, we have the permits in place.
Alright.
Yeah, it is in play, I think the permit is in the correspondence file,
Yep.
or in your packet, but,
It'd be nice to get that taken care of. That's quite that one up in the sand pit is quite the obstruction.
yeah. Speaking of the sand pit, if I can digress for just a moment, we did follow up on the board's decision relative to the right-of-way request or easement that we declined a couple of months ago. We did talk to the person putting in the request, and he understood why. He said, we're talking about a lot of development, what have you, explained what we're trying to do down there. Also told him that very close to where he was requesting the easement or right-of-way, you actually pass into Torch Lake Township. And there are roads that are in Torch Lake Township that take you up behind the sand pit.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, and I said, you may wanna give them a call. So he was more than satisfied, understood, so we took care of that, a little tardy on my behalf, on my part, but we got it taken care of. Vacancy issue we've addressed, road millage renewal, just a reminder that it's on the August primary ballot. And we'll be asking for all the mills to be renewed for all 3 precincts, so. Table business, Elm Street restoration, my recommendation would be to leave it on the table right now. Tamarack City land split, same thing there. The assessing contract is sort of in limbo right now, we need to discuss that further when we gather on the 22nd. Any questions about any of those? Under new business, salary resolutions, again, we'll take those up on the 22nd. Clerk position decision, we've got an interview date selected.
I mean, she gave us this letter again, but we're good. We're done with that. We accepted the resignation, right?
Yeah, we accepted, we accepted her resignation with a condition. And the condition was that she extend through June 30. A question came up because the date she had on her letter was May 31st. I brought it to Pat's attention. Pat said, this is interesting. You did not then accept the letter of resignation as presented. You offered a condition, and she accepted the condition. So she now is with us until the 30th of June. The correspondence that I believe you have before you from Tracy accepting that extension is a result of numerous conversations, and I think the way Pat indicated, he said, you've already accepted everything, but if you want to, quote, memorialize it.
All right.
And that's what is
Okay.
in front of you there, so that's that. In your packet, and for reference on the 22nd, 2 things, you have an amended budget that was part of the township budget, and it was tweaked a little bit because we had an anomaly. Remember, we brought up miscellaneous revenue before? Miscellaneous revenue was at $38,000 before, and we really have to, as we budget, be as precise as we can be, and that's a very large miscellaneous revenue. So we took it out, reduced it to 1,000 in this budget, and took it out of the placeholder that it was in, which was, I believe, was the dog park.
Mhm.
So you now have much more accurate figures as to what we've been discussing, and we're trying to figure out what went into miscellaneous. We'll have an answer for you by the 22nd. A footnote to all of that is that we have incorporated into budgets recommendations and or requests from, for example, the Tamarack City Fire Department. And we're talking about, we've increased the rate in the water system budgets to cover costs of $50 per hydrant for cleanup. Remember the discussion we had where, why are we paying a private contractor to dig out hydrants in Dollar Bay when we're paying the fire department? That, we're setting the rate for fire department by $50. That money has already been budgeted, if I recall correctly, in the amended budgets for water system we've already approved. There was a request for funding here relative to elections. General conversation was it should apply across the board. Steve, I don't have the information right in front of me handy, if I can impose, it's $100 per election, right?
Yep.
Yep.
And
We'll
that,
have it here.
you have
For use of the building,
Yeah,
yeah, use of the building, 2 days though, set up and then clean up, so.
and that's for both buildings now, or what?
No, that would be for we'll do it for each, fire department in the new budget. So that, and we've kind of endorsed it conceptually, we'll be approving it formally on the 22nd.
So it's just a little nominal
Yeah.
rental fee.
It's a nominal rental fee for the assistance of the fire department in getting the place ready to go and cleaning up when we leave.
I mean, you can't really rent it because it's actually ours, but
Yeah,
I get
it's a
that.
s-
Yeah,
yeah,
I get it.
stipends or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the other one had to do with rental space for the water systems meetings here on the first Wednesday of every month. And that's been incorporated into the water system budget. So all of that will start, and when we approve all these things, and they go retroactive, which would be the recommendation on these kinds of things, it'll date back to April 1st and come forward, and they're in the budgets. But I wanted to state that, to make sure it's fresh in your minds, so when you see it and the material comes out before the meeting on the 22nd, you say, oh, that's what that is, so. There's a couple of items. Little Free Library, Tamarack City Park. Krista, do you want?
I can, yep. So we had a request, come in from, Julie Backus, who works at Coppers, and they would like to know if they can place, are you familiar with the Little Free Libraries? They're like a
The way you
tiny.
put the books in them?
Yeah, yeah. They wanna put, there's pictures on the back too, and it's terrible pictures, but they look like, sometimes they look like little houses, you know, they're like yay big, and they wanna put one there, they will maintain it, they'll do everything, they just wanted to know if, we would allow them to put one, they're gonna do one in Lake Linden, and they wanted to do one here, if we say no, then they're gonna put two in Lake Linden.
As long as,
I've seen them before.
There's one in front of the old Lutheran church in Dollar Bay.
I've also seen books scattered all over the ground.
She said they're gonna maintain it.
Yeah.
We have a direct contact.
I'm
If-
just,
Or are you worried about people?
I am worried about people,
Gotcha.
because there are, they've been down that park to break. The basketball holders, and they're climbing on the basketball holders to climb up to the top to stand on the hoops.
Oh my god.
So,
that's kids.
There's 2 new ones on order.
yeah, I know I talked this stuff,
Yeah, you had that mentioned.
but
We gotta,
I don't know, I can't, it's up to the board, but. And
well, my only thought about that is the people that put so much work into that park should probably ensure that the location chosen would be acceptable to them.
They said to choose it, and
That's
they'll
what I'm
put it
saying,
wherever
but
they don't
I'm
want
saying
it.
that the
Oh,
people.
yeah,
That's why we brought it down here tonight.
I don't think that's
Consideration.
fair for anybody but the people that put all that work into.
I don't mean everybody, the whole town did it, but.
Well, we don't have to act on it this evening, we can table.
I don't,
we can
I'm fine
check
with
on it.
putting it in there, personally, it's, but, you know.
If I may, Mr. Worm, Don, do we wanna talk to some people down here and see what they think?
I think I'd rather talk to the community a little bit,
Yeah.
and there's just some riffraff that was said that drives me nuts.
Can we make a decision on the 22nd?
Why don't we, my suggestion would be to follow Chris's lead, let's table it till the 22nd. Have a motion to table?
Can you talk to Scott also?
Yeah.
Cause he's the one who's gonna end up picking that mess up.
I'll entertain a motion to table until the 22nd.
Aaron moved and I'll
You
support.
moved, who moved?
Aaron. Yep.
Aaron moved, Krista supported the motion to table. All in favor of the motion to table, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries. We'll pick it up on the 22nd. 5-year rec plan, we've already talked about, some degree, but you
The
wanna
only
add?
thing, yeah, and I don't know if we need to do anything, but, we have to put a committee together. And he said if we haven't done that, we should do it ASAP, but that we're gonna have a meeting, soon, very, very soon. Do we need a motion to put a committee or just,
A suggestion would be that we put notices out in each of our precincts and ask for the volunteers and maybe pick one from each precinct if we get that kind of response.
I'd like to be on the committee if I can, offer that anyway.
I think in past
Or are we
years, there
gonna
have been
just
2
wait?
members of the township board
The last
on the
one was,
committee.
yeah.
And then 3 representatives, 1 from each precinct. Does that seem reasonable as a way to proceed?
Sounds fair.
We'll put notices out then
Okay.
over the next week or so in each of the precincts with a deadline, asking people to submit letters of interest and being part of the recreation committee to develop a 5-year plan. We'll see what kind of response we get. If we get a lot of people responding, then we'll pick one.
Be nice if we put a 5-year plan together and we did something on the 5-year plan.
We put a few of these 5-year plans.
This will be my
together.
3rd one now.
Yeah.
Not a single thing has been done on any of them except for, the only thing that we've done so far is, and I don't think that was even on the plan. Was that on the plan?
We added it on the plan after it started. So technically, no, I was just telling Mark today that I think this new one's gonna look a lot different than the previous ones, just because.
Well, they have to go through, like in the past, we worked with, with Whooper or whatever, and they put it through a voting process.
Yeah, there's a survey and stuff that
All
goes
these
on.
surveys that they do, and the stuff comes back, but I suspect that, there's a lot of things on there that, we'd like to see we could do, it's just where are you gonna find funding for that kind of
Mhm.
stuff? But you wanna put as much on there as you can put on there, because if you don't have it on there, it's hard, some of
You
the
can't
funding's
go to
on.
the DNR if we
Yeah,
don't
so
have a
as
plan.
far as I'm concerned, just about everything on there can stay on there, unless and there's probably some more things to add.
Mhm.
We will follow through and we'll put notices out seeking volunteers for, a work committee on the 5-year plan. How's that?
Perfect.
Mark, can I add a comment?
We're almost to public comment. You wanna do it then?
Just real quick, Franklin Township has a rec committee there, and there's some bylaws you had to have. We have applied for money from the DNR for improvements. No guarantee we're gonna get it, but.
I know that the trust fund, the DNR trust fund is out there, and they usually do a 50-50 type of match. Obviously, we gotta come up with the match, that's always one of the hard struggles we have, and we don't know what kind of money we have, we still can't seem to figure that out real well, but
We're working on it.
without those kinds of things, it makes it really hard to move forward.
Mhm.
I mean, we can put in, I know the last trust fund grant that we got, which was for Sandy Bottoms, phase 3, which would have been awesome. We got the grant, we turned it down. We haven't gone back to the well, cause we didn't have the money, or we didn't wanna spend the money or whatever. It was, I don't know if you've seen what phase 3 was, but it would have been very, very nice,
It's on the wall in Steve's office.
yeah.
Excuse me, my office.
That is not his.
Well,
office.
Well, I say Steve because he left it there.
Yeah.
Anyway, I stand corrected, thank you. Are we good?
Yep.
With this, we'll put one.
Yep.
Anything else?
No.
We have reached the end of the business portion of our agenda. There is an opportunity for public comment. If anybody would like to comment on anything you've heard this evening or offer items for consideration by the board, you'll have up to 3 minutes. We would ask that you identify yourself when you begin speaking, and the clock will start moving. when you start talking. Is anyone interested in offering public comment for the board's consideration at this time? Hearing none, Ms. Gardner, please note the time. Public comment was offered and closed. Is there anything else that any member of the board has that you believe we need to consider at this moment before a motion to adjourn? Missed that. Hearing none, motion to adjourn is in order. Ms. Gardner moves, is there support? Mr. Worm supports. We have a motion to adjourn. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. We stand adjourned at 8:25?
26.
8:26, thank you.